Bluesky is dying, and that's a good thing. According to recent reports, and there are many, they seem to indicate that Bluesky's daily active users have fallen quite dramatically since its peak in mid-November of 2024, shortly after the election. And while the base still grows at 0.88 million per month, you're having dramatic and significant fall-off in people actually using the platform. There's only been about 600,000 that have joined this particular platform over the course of this month of June, and I don't think it's going to jump much higher after the inspiration from the recent events of the No King's Day, which was a complete failure. The 3.5 million people that show up there on the daily are about all there is. There have been many critics of Bluesky recently, including Mark Cuban. So, let's take a look at what's happened from the beginning to what's looking like the end. Here we go. Bluesky started out as the solution for Twitter, or X if you prefer, and there was good reason to have as many alternatives as possible. I was all for that, including when I joined Parler and a few others that no longer seem to exist. Well, they may exist, but they just don't have the oomph or the traffic that they did before, mostly because of sabotage by one particular platform, which was eventually purchased by Elon Musk and transformed into what we now know as X, which I've got to tell you, I've been enjoying quite a lot, and you can follow me on X as a matter of fact, and I think you'll be surprised at not only the daily questions that I ask, but all of the content that's promoted there as well. Plus, I've got some pretty good follows myself. So let's jump into beginning to end, shall we? Back in, I don't know, maybe 2020, 2021, 2022, there was a demand for alternative platforms to X because, well, Elon Musk, the big meanie that he is, came in and acquired the platform for, I believe, $44 billion, which was still too much to pay for something that really didn't have a lot of, well, monetization options back in that day. Those things and those times have changed. But Bluesky was put together by a team of people that were genuinely interested in recreating Twitter and its image in the same manner that it could just direct the narrative again. So Bluesky was plotting a total takeover of the social internet. This article coming to us from Wired from May 19th of 2025. You see, they were very optimistic, but they really didn't have reason to be, and we'll get to that in a moment. See, all the lefties fled to Bluesky following Elon Musk's Twitter takeover, but the CEO, Jay Graber, who, well, that's Jay Graber in the picture there, says the app is for everyone. No, it's not. You get chased off of there for using free speech, and could revolutionize how people communicate online. Now, this is all in an effort to keep the platform from collapsing. And I'm going to say, based on this particular CEO, I'm not sure how much longer it will last as these kinds of trends fall out of favor rather quickly. And if you take a look at the upcoming June 19th, which is falling apart, which is, of course, Juneteenth, and if you take a look at what's going on with all the promotion and narrative around Pride Month, you'll understand that things eventually have an end date or an end of interest date. Anyway, but after this article, I went looking for other things that have been talking about the decline of Bluesky, and there's plenty of it. Let's take a look at this article coming to us from May 6th of 2025. Twitter quitters flock to Bluesky, which now has 35 million users. That's an interesting headline, you see, and they promote people such as Mark Hamill, who's a complete scumbag, and Stephen King, also a complete scumbag, and millions of others who are now using the social media site Bluesky. No, they're not. Again, you only have 3.2 or 3.5 million active daily users per day. That's not a big number. That's a tiny, tiny number in comparison to 200 plus million active daily users every day on X. That's a significant difference there. And the 35 million users, well, they're slowing down their interest in this platform. Is it possible that only 35 million users were using X to pass along silliness? Possible. But The real article that I want to get to is this one from Fox, which a lot of you will not appreciate. You see, Mark Cuban says liberal alternative to X has become hateful due to leftist groupthink. I think that's fairly accurate. And that's the problem, is you are such an echo chamber, which we'll get to in just a moment, that you don't allow for any alternative thoughts. And that's not how you go about building a platform. You need to maintain the idea of free speech, dispel thoughts around the idea that there's hate speech, because there isn't, and understand that people will have different opinions than you. Social media platform Bluesky saw massive growth after the 2024 elections, which is true because all the anti-Trump people decided that was the place they can go and talk freely. But billionaire Mark Cuban disagrees. You see, he seems to realize this week that liberal social media alternative to X has become toxic and hateful because of the anger on display there. And that seems to be all it is. It's a lot of bile. In a series of recent posts to Bluesky, the business mogul lamented that people on the platform, the majority of which are liberal, have grown ruder and more hateful. And if you look at anything that comes out of Bluesky, it's hard to argue. Even if you agree with 95% of what a person is saying on a topic, if there is one point that you might call out as being more of a gray area, they will call you a fascist, etc. And, well, it's kind of like the mainstream media using those terms on the daily, and politicians on one side of the aisle using those terms daily. It's a messaging strategy that I think most people have caught on to and are now ignoring. Bluesky, of course, is a social media platform created by Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey, who's left that project for obvious reasons. He seems to misunderstand that the only support he's going to get is from people who are just filled with bile and hate, so he's walked away. That particular platform, when it launched, did see massive growth because of Donald Trump's election. Many of them fleeing X to escape conservative voices, which were no longer muted or were less muted than normal. And as I mentioned, Dorsey quit last year, which, again, not the best timing if you're going to be the growing weed that you plan to take over the social media landscape, and yet you probably saw the writing on the wall. A recent Pew Research study found that Bluesky went from 10 million to 30 million users between November 2024 and May of 2025. And while that's all well and fine, they only have a limited number of average users, which is, 10% of their total subscriber base? That sounds like Disney Plus. And as I've already mentioned, it got a bunch of mind virus infected celebrities involved as well, which would include Mark Hamill, John Cusack, Stephen King, and others, with particularly vile and a lot of bile, and some really smooth-brained opinions. Of course, Cuban had created an account there as well, initially posting about his hope for the platform. Hello, less hateful world, he wrote, after joining the platform in November of 2024, days after the election, because, well, he was being ridiculed and mocked on X, in addition to a few supporting voices here and there. In the months since, it appears that the Dallas Mavericks owner's tune has changed substantially, I would say. The billionaire posted on Monday, the replies on here may not be as racist as Twitter. Ooh, this is all for show, folks. But they dang sure are hateful. Talk AI, F you, AI sucks, go away. Talk business, go away. Talk healthcare, crickets. Yeah, well, you're not speaking the liberal language, Mr. Maverick. And at least on Twitter, you could have some quality conversations, and the occasional one that mocks you, which I guess you've opened yourself up for that. In another post, Cuban shared a Washington Post column titled "The Bluesky Bubble Hurts Liberals and Their Causes," which is actually true. The piece argued because of the Musk and Trump haters, and they're the largest and most passionate group, The result is something of an echo chamber where it's hard to get a positive engagement unless you're saying things progressives want. Well, yeah. And where the negative engagement on things they don't want to hear can be intense because they're just a constant rifle of abuse, hate, bile, pick your adjective. Cuban appeared to agree with the analysis, commenting the lack of diversity of thought is really hurting usage. And as I said, while not noted in this piece, only 3.5 million max active daily users, 10% of your total base, your total subscriber base, does not a platform make. At the end of the day, the message is pretty clear. Bluesky is dying and it's chasing people away and back to places like X, or Minds, or maybe a few others. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Do you see losing Bluesky as a problem, or are you more excited and encouraged than you've ever been? Do you think X is the only place for free speech at this point, or are there others? And finally, do you agree that maybe X is the only place to get real news in real time that can be fact-checked in situations by real people through the community notes system? And is that something that's going to help other platforms evolve? Because, as we've mentioned before on this channel, Meta is adopting the same type of scheme. The question is, will it improve any of Meta's products, or will it eventually devolve into just the one-sided thing that Facebook and other apps associated with Meta always become? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below, as I mentioned before, and let's have a discussion, because I think that's what YouTube is for. On that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya over on X.